city bus and streetcar drivers must now call out all stops so that everyone knows when they're at their destination. In a moment, we'll speak to Mr. Lepofsky about his victory, but first we wanted to go back a year and a half when Andy interviewed then TTC Chair Howard Moscow about why the TTC wouldn't ask drivers to call out all stops.
So why can't the driver announce every stop? We were wondering yesterday if the drivers raised an objection against this.
Well, the objections have come from that end, and the reason they've come is that we are faced with a position of having to discipline any driver who doesn't comply, and we're expecting or anticipating some resistance from drivers. It creates a major administrative hassle. I know it's not an excuse. And I know the Commission, faced with the prospect of the options, basically decided on the policy that we have.
That was former TTC Chair Howard Moscow in conversation with Andy Berry on this program a year and a half ago. Well, the Human Rights Tribunal did not agree with that the TTC's position was reasonable. Yesterday it ruled that they have a duty to accommodate the new needs of blind people by announcing every stop on streetcars and buses. It's a win for David Lepofsky. He's a local lawyer who originally filed the complaint, and he's in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, I want to talk about why this was such an important fight for you, but, I think maybe you should describe what it's like for you as a blind person when you take the bus or streetcar.
When you take the bus and streetcar, what you have to do is get on the bus, go to the driver and ask him or her to announce your stop and hope they don't forget. We're actually trained by the CNIB to take aggressive countermeasures because we all know the driver can forget because they don't have to announce all stops. They only had to announce major intersections and your requests. And they can and do forget your requests. So you have to sit at the front, hold your cane in plain view, and keep asking the driver, hoping that they won't forget. You've got to remain hyper vigilant at all times and can't relax on the ride or read or just daydream because you're in suspense about whether they're going to remember to call your stop or whether you're going to get driven past it.
And how often would you miss your stop?
Well, because I took these aggressive countermeasures, the problem didn't arise for me very much. But on the other hand, my countermeasures were very successful virtually all of the time. But it's common knowledge among blind people that they can and do forget to call your stops, which is why the blindness community has been asking TTC for quite some time to fix the problem.
And so what will this decision mean then?
Well, because I brought the lawsuit to begin with, or at least because it was on the verge of being brought, the TTC ran out and arranged to install an automated system for announcing stops. They've been running around advertising that as why they're doing such a great job. I never actually asked them to spend a dime of the taxpayers' money, and that system is already a year overdue. But in the meantime, I asked them if I had to bring this lawsuit to force them to to direct their drivers to announce each and every stop. You heard on that tape that the former chair of the TTC, Howard Moscow, gave what is a legally inexcusable explanation for why they didn't do that. I first asked them to announce all stops 3 years ago, and I've had to wait 3 years to get my human rights respected.
So what do you think convinced the adjudicator then? What was it?
Well, the adjudicator had already heard the previous case, which I had to fight for years before, to force them to announce each and every subway stop. And in this case, it was such an obviously, if you got to announce all subway stops, you got to announce all bus stops. The TTC also came forward with what I think was a bogus defense. They tried to claim that if drivers had to announce all surface route stops, this would be a danger. We'd be running the risk of bus crashes or something. It was a bogus defense. A driver can announce major intersections as they're required. They can announce all stops. Every bus has a driver. Every driver has a mouth, and I sure hope they know what stops they're supposed to stop at. The thing about this
until the adjudicator figured out that they hadn't even looked into this to see whether it was going to be a safety issue?
Their defense was bogus. They put a guy in the witness stand who'd never been a bus driver, never talked to the drivers. You heard Howard Moscow say that they're expecting resistance from the drivers. I was able to establish through cross-examination that they never actually asked their drivers what they thought of this.
Right.
By the way, the other thing that's quite troubling about all of this, I mean, this decision is a great decision. It speaks to the TTC, but it really speaks to all city bus companies or bus service providers around the province. But why did the TTC fight it? And moreover, what's really troubling is why did the TTC, a government organization, reach into the taxpayer's pocket and pay what the Toronto Star reports to somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000 to a private law firm to fight me for the past 3 years, rather than provide what is an obvious, simple, easy, and much-needed accommodation. I think City Council has to look into this. We've been hearing about budget shortfalls and problems with funding. I think they should be looking seriously into why TTC is wasting our money in now 2 successive lawsuits.
Right. Well, they have agreed to comply, and TTC Chair Adam Giambrone says that's what's going to happen. So let's hear what he had to say yesterday on Here and Now.
We had already had a program where operators were to call major stops. This program requires each and every stop, and you can appreciate that some bus lines have over 100 stops. Bus drivers change routes sometimes every day, so it will be a little bit of a challenge. They have to collect fares. There's people asking them questions. It is a challenging environment. We're going to work with them over the next couple of weeks, develop the training program. But we have somewhere around 8,500 employees that this affects potentially, so there is a lot of training that we have to undergo, and with our drivers, we will do our best to do that. We respect the decision of the tribunal.
And David, do you think there's going to be any idea what the cost will be in terms of training the drivers to do this?
On the interview, he said it was negligible. This is just a cost of doing business. He's giving the same excuses they tried to give at the hearing that didn't succeed. They haven't learned their lesson, even when they're trying to justify it after. They say they respect the decision, but they keep reiterating the same party line they gave before. They say drivers sometimes change routes. The majority of drivers driving today are on routes that they've been on for weeks, sometimes even months. This isn't rocket science.
Okay, so you're excited then that this is at least happening?
I'm delighted that this is happening, and I encourage City Council to look into why TTC spent so much of the taxpayers' money fighting this when they should have just been providing this accommodation for the past 3 years, and not putting someone like me through hundreds of hours of work to have to, as a volunteer, just to get basic human rights enforced.
Okay, thank you, David.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
David Lepofsky is a local human rights lawyer. The Ontario Human Rights Tribunal ruled in his favor yesterday, deciding that TTC drivers will now have to call out all stops.